Happy Friday, everyone. Good morning. Thanks for joining. Uh, I'll just give it a minute for a few more people to join and we'll kick things off. But feel free to use the chat throughout the meeting to ask any questions, and we'll do our best to sort of cover them both in the chat and also in the presentation on the screen. So, don't be afraid to drop your questions in the chat area so we can help you get the most out of this group training session. That's sort of what it's all about. We want to sort of cover your questions more so in these meetings. So feel free to ask away and get the most out of your time this morning. So while we're waiting for everyone to join, I might just kick it off and start with a little bit of a sort of basic training session covering, I guess, the common questions that come up in help desk. So I'm just going to expand out Mozaik here and talk a little bit about some products. So what I wanted to sort of highlight here was, I guess, one of the lesser known features of Mozaik being able to sort of merge machining from one part to another, one product to another product. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit and just show you an practical example of where you might be able to use that to build something of a compound product like a wall oven tower, for example. So I'll go ahead and sort of start demonstrating that, and feel free to jump in and ask questions along the way, again, using the chat, as everyone will probably be on mute just to make sure that everyone can hear clearly and there's no kind of background noise from everyone's microphones. So I'm going to kick it off by just starting with a tall end panel. Now I'm just going to drag out a tall end panel and drop it onto the screen. And I might go ahead and just center that in the room. And let's go ahead and drag out a right end panel next to it. And I'm going to go ahead and put a 600 mil space between those two panels. So effectively what I'm trying to do here, and I could grab both of those and recenter that in the room. Little tricks like that are sort of common that a lot of people probably aren't aware of as well. You know, the ability to sort of click on a product and hit the center line option to center that on the wall, but also being able to multi-select items and hit that center line button as well. Just gets you nice and centered with what you're trying to do on the page. So if we're talking about building a wall oven tower, I mean, there's so many different ways we've seen to go about this. Some people build it in a solid sort of tall product. Other people build it and make it out of sections along the way. So I'm going to kind of show you a way to approach it if you are doing kind of sections of products. So, you know, at the moment, I've got some tall end panels here that are 16 millimeters in thickness. I mean, you can make that whatever material it needs to be. At the moment, if I go into edit and go into my parts, it is using my sort of color selection for the job, but perhaps, you might want to change that to something else. So you might want that to actually just be fixed as like the local interior product. So you could always go to materials here and case, and you could always change that to something else. Like if you wanted that to be specifically out of like your white material, again, you can sort of go in there and choose that and say, no, I want the case to be out of white, and then that's going to be out of white. And of course I can do that on both products, or I could have multi-selected them and done the same thing, but I'll just go ahead and make the same change here using the nice filtering function that comes up in 12.1 versions and onwards. So it makes it a lot easier to quickly select those materials now. So now that we've got two kind of tall end panels, let's talk about like building out the sections in between, right? So the benefit of doing it this way is that you can sort of have one common tall panel that might be the overall sort of section for the entire run, or maybe that might stop at the oven. Again, there's a lot of different ways, but we'll just kind of look at some practical examples of how you can utilize this functionality. So let's take a set of drawers. So maybe we'll take a 2-drawer cabinet, drag and drop that in between, right? So obviously it's going to auto resize and snap between. But what you can take that a step further is that you can turn off the ends of this product and allow the drilling for the drawers to happen on the panels. So that way you're not doubling up on the material that you're using there, right? So what we can do there is double click on this product, and we can go to the shape tab, and then we can click on the left edge of the shape. And rather than this being defined as an unfinished end, you could drop the menu down and change that to nothing. So now the end turns off, and all of the drilling and machining for the end of that product is now going to be assigned to the tall end panel product that I've got next to it. And I'm going to do the same on the right-hand side. So I'm going to change this one to nothing and then click OK. And I might want to choose the overall size of this product. I'm going to drop it down to about 600. So what we're going to see now, if I open up this end panel, and go to view this in 3D, and we'll go to a perspective mode here. And I'll make this nice and big so everyone can see this. We're getting the drill in and machine in for the drawer cabinet onto the end panel. So we're getting, the screw holes for the bottom, the back, the top rail, and the drawer runners, drawer guides all coming through onto this particular product. So that's a really cool feature that you can utilize just by having a product next to it when the product adjacent to it has no end or the end type set to nothing. It will then transfer the machining onto the next available product. So then you could utilize that to really help you build up different oven sections. So continuing kind of with that flow, let's say, a common scenario might be then to put an oven section above that, and then maybe above that, maybe a microwave section. And then at the very top, you might be doing a sort of two-door wall cabinet that sits off the wall. So we'll just go through and step through and just try and build that out. And then, feel free to jump in and ask questions along the way. Or as soon as I've sort of completed this, we'll go through and just dive into your questions anyway. So don't be shy to ask away. All right. So next section I'm going to do here is I'm going to take I could do this as a base or a wall cabinet for the oven section. I'll just use a wall cabinet, just drag and drop this section in here. Now I'm going to define this as 600 high overall, and I'm going to define my depth as, let's see, I would probably make that 560, depending on kind of, what I'm trying to achieve, but I'm going to do that at 560. I'm going to go into edit then, and, I might rename this as my oven cabinet and, change my name and description. That's not necessary, but it can help with your reporting and labels and everything like that for a CNC. So then from there, I'm going to go to the face and just clear that out. And I've just left with this open box now. Now, I might not want the sides again. So maybe I want to go into my shape and go to my sides and change them to nothing. And then looking at this product, I've now just got a bottom, a back, and a top. Again, you might only want the bottom. You might want to turn off the back, or you might want to turn off the top. There's various ways to do that. I can click on the parts to build button, and I can uncheck the top option, and that will turn the top off. So it just leaves me with the bottom and the back. And in my example, that's what I'm going to run with. Again, you might want to vent it out the back. So maybe you don't want to have the back. All options that are completely up to you. So in that case, you would just go to the back there and say nothing on that one. And then you're really just left with just the bottom. The reason for doing this, I might want to come into the interior here and use my inserts to drop an oven in. So there's various oven inserts, and you can always sort of download and create your own options too for either 3D Warehouse in SketchUp. But I'm just going to use one of the built-in Mozaik examples here in the version 12 appliance inserts. I'm going to go ahead and grab one of these oven options. So I'm just going to grab this speed oven, drag and drop that. Now, this one is designed on imperial measurements, so it's usually too large for a 600 space, but I wanted to show you this specifically so you can learn how to also edit these things on the fly. So I'm going to say, yes, I want to place it in there anyway. So it is warning me that it's, the model's designed to be too big for this actual space, but I'm going to go ahead and press edit on that model now, and then into the scale option. So in the scale option, I want to go ahead and change my width. Let's say I want to make it 595 overall in width, and maybe that's centered. So it's going to give me kind of 2.5 mil reveal either side. And I could go 595 or, 600 high, again, depending on what I'm trying to achieve. I'm going to say it's 500 deep, and I'm going to set it back minus 50 and click OK on that option there, and OK again. So that's going to fit in much nicer into that space. And it's just going to bring that oven kind of sitting out nicely in front of my bottom panel there as well. So now I can click OK, and I've got that oven section. Of course, I want to change my elevation height and bring that down to the 600 that I defined my drawer section at earlier. So now I've got a section there for my drawers, a section there for my oven, and the next section I'll probably use would be for a microwave opening. I could have made that all as part of the oven as well, various ways. Again, I've seen hundreds of ways people build these things, and everyone's got their own different twist on it. But showing you these skills, hopefully you'll be able to learn how to build that in your own way, or just utilize this knowledge to apply your own twist to it. So let's go ahead and go down to the wall cabinets in the CADMate V12 library, and we're going to go and open the wall appliance cabinets, and I'm going to get a wall microwave box as my starting point. I'm going to drag that out, and I'm going to drop that in here. Now, because of the starting point of this, it is down lower, so I'm going to go ahead and lift that up first of all. So at 600 plus 600, we're going to be at 1200 in elevation. And then I can just grab that green arrow there and drag it, and it will snap into place there. Of course, I want to change my overall height. So I'm going to say make that around about 400 high. And then I will need to reset my elevation back down to 1200. Okay, so with this microwave section, I've got the depth locked in at 500 deep. I'm going to go ahead and outset that off the wall. I'm going to say it's 100 millimeters off the wall. That's just going to bring this forward. So if we go ahead and show you this now in a 3D perspective, what you're going to see here is that, I've got this color box that's now sitting forward. Of course, I might not want the additional end panels as well. So again, we can use the same skills and knowledge to change that for sure. So, and I might want to bring these forward as well. I might want to make them 580 in depth as well. So that way they're going to sit forward and in line with the end panels that I've got there. And again, make this in your own way as you will, but let's go in and change this. So we'll go to the shape tab and we'll click on the end. And I'm going to go ahead and set that to nothing. And I'm going to go to this end and set that to nothing as well. That way I've got the no second end happening there. Just these panels will screw through the side of the outside end panels, which I've made out of my whiteboard material, standard carcass material, but you could make that out of color if you please, for sure. But let's go ahead and now go to this product here and go to the inserts again. So we're going to click on inserts and open up the appliance V12 inserts. And let's take a standard microwave and drag and drop that into this place here. Again, you can muck around with that, the positioning of it. You can go to edit and then scale. And in the depth here, I can change my depth. I could position it where I want. I might want to go 10 mil back from the front of the opening. You've got various control there in changing that, but it's helping you build kind of a product that's going to be, consistent with the way you want to manufacture things. And I've got a sort of airspace for that microwave to vent up there. So that's, giving me that area there where that can vent out and up. And I've also got the back of that section running up a bit higher, which will basically be in front of this wall cabinet that I'm about to put in. That way, you're not sort of, if you are looking through that microwave section, you'll see that sort of another panel running up and not cutting short. Again, various ways to build it. But let's take a standard wall cabinet and drag and drop that into the remaining area. Again, it's going to bounce out to the side because it's using the standard room heights and sizes. So with the remaining section, you do want to kind of work out what you've got left. There's a few ways you can do that. You could use your dimension tool and just drag and snap that in. And you can see I've got 500 mil remaining. So let's go ahead and change that height to 500. And I'll just go ahead and change the width to 600. And then I'm going to drag and drop that into that position. Now, the outset of this one, I'm going to put it 280. So that way it sits forward in line with my doors. And as you can see, then I've got, looking down through the cabinet, I've got my areas for the various appliances to vent. And I've got this standard sort of wall cabinet sitting forward. Now that, really is a fairly common way that we see people build these wall oven towers. Looks like I could probably drop the appearance of my appliance down slightly as well to maybe cover that end panel. It just looks like the appliance has a bit of a dark section there in this particular model. But again, that's all editable and configurable. One interesting note there on the appliances from the V12 library is they are using the hardware texture selection for the room, which is currently set to a stainless steel. But that's really cool to know because you can go to the settings tab and under textures, you could definitely change the appearance of these really easily. So right now, my appliance is set to a stainless steel. If I wanted them to be a black appearance, I could go ahead and search for a black material, go ahead and just change that selection to black. And now when I go back to my products and back to 3D, you'll see my appliances are now showing the black color. And the same thing, you could apply any color. It could be brass, it could be, white or whatever the color of your stainless steel, your appliance is, and just run with that. So basically, once you've built that up and you've got it working in the section that you wanted, the advantage of sort of doing it this way, and regardless of whether you want to have separate ends or solid ends, the whole advantage of doing it this way is that you can now change things fairly easily. Like if you wanted to jump in here and go like, okay, now I don't want a shelf in that product, or maybe I want 2 shelves in that product, you can go in and make that change really easily using Mozaik's standard split functionality. So you've got sort of full control of making these changes. Perhaps this one's going to go to one drawer section, or maybe you're going to just change it from drawers to a door altogether. So I can just go reset there. I might want to go into my interior, add a split and for a shelf, and I might want to jump in here and make that a pair of doors. So you've got the ability to utilize Mozaik sectioning, which is one of the main reasons why we sort of recommend this approach rather than building a custom one-off product that you can change as a whole. Of course, there's always pros and cons to every approach, but this will give you the ultimate flexibility of allowing you to make those changes on the fly. And then once you're done, you can group these things together. So I'm going to go ahead and delete my dimension line there, but I'm going to go ahead and put a window over this entire product. And then I'm going to right click on this and use the option that says add to favorites. So when you click on the add to favorites, then you can give this a name. So this might be my wall oven tower. And click OK. And where that goes, it doesn't actually appear in your standard library. Across to the side, you'll see that there's next to products, you've got job parameters and then the favorites menu. So if you click on favorites, now you've got the wall oven tower sitting in your favorites. And if I wanted to drag that out and drop that onto the screen, I can go ahead and drag and drop that, and it's going to appear as an item that I can move around on its own. I can still give it clearances and things like that. So if I wanted to be 100 mil off the wall, I can certainly do that. And then everything's editable. So in the next job, whether if you don't want to have a panel on that side or you want to have an additional panel, you can change every little aspect of that in the way we've built that up. So the only kind of downside to this approach is that if your next job has a different size wall, like if the room sizes are different, I should say. So just to be clear there, if I go back and my wall height here is 2400, my soffit height is 300. If in my next job, the soffit height was only 100 millimeters, then you're going to have a difference in the way this product's going to be built. So what you're going to need to do there is then rejig your section. So, just if I was to clear this out and then drag that product back out, what you're going to see there is it's still going to come in at what that current height was. So that way you would still need to click on then the end panels and change them. So you might want to click on that one and go, look, in this case, I need to go to 2300, and you could go through and do that make that sort of change for each of those products. So go through and set that as you will. That's the only real downside to this approach. But, perhaps you want to keep all those bottom sections consistent and it's only that top cabinet that's growing. Again, you can then grab that and drag that up, or you could go in and, type the size. Either way works. But yeah, that's kind of the one, downside to the approach of separate products. But I think overall, there's a lot of advantages into doing it that way, that it just gives you that ultimate flexibility and control. Yeah, so Mark, you asked how to save that product into your library. Obviously, the favorites is a really good one to know. It's a bit of a game changer in a lot of ways, like not even just in this sort of wall oven tower section. There's a lot of examples where I'd like to utilize favorites. I mean, think about common sections of projects that you might be working on. So like two really good examples would be like fridge sections, because there's usually a panel, a fridge cabinet and a filler, or a panel, a fridge cabinet and another panel. Or think of vanities, where it might be a panel, two or three cabinets and another panel or a filler. Whatever those common sections are, you can just group them, window them, save them as favorites, and that way you can just drag out entire sections. So there's common sections that you build in, whether it's even islands. Commonly a lot of islands are laid out the same as well. So again, looking at that example there, if we were to talk about like a fridge section, just to give you that sort of example as well, let's go ahead and drag out a standard sort of filler. So I go down to wall fillers here, and I might just I'll just take any old filler just for the sake of it. I might do, let's just grab a standard filler there. And, I'll drag out a fridge as well. So let's go into the room and we'll go to fridge and we'll add a fridge to this wall. Of course, I can change all my sizes and do everything like that. Might just go 1800 overall. And I'm going to bump that against the filler product. With the filler, of course, that would probably sit off the wall then. So I could go ahead and either change the depth of that filler or bump it out off the wall as well. So we come back to the elevation there. Just to show you this, you would probably be changing the height of it too to accommodate sitting above the product. So there's two things you're probably changing there, either the depth overall or the outset to bring that out to wherever you want that to sit in relation to the fridge. So, different people approach that differently. But then you've got your wall cabinet, you would drag that out, adjust the height to fit above the fridge. And then, then that way you've got your overall height. And so then I can go to my filler and match that overall height really easily. And then, maybe you've got a panel and that can be the end running down to the floor, or it might be a separate panel, depending on how you do it. Again, there's a lot of variances in the way people build these things, but I'm going to go ahead and drag out a panel there and sit that next to the fridge. And I'm going to stretch that product over to give me that space. And, you might then try and center this product in the space. So that's another kind of good shortcut. I'll just press undo to show you that a bit closer. At the moment, I've got a 50 mil space this side and a 20 millimeter space that side. If I click on the product and click the sort of middle button there, that's asking to center that product in the available space. So now we're getting 35 millimeters either side. So really quick and easy tools to help you make those changes on the fly. Of course, I'm going to have to outset my cabinet as well to sit out with the panel. And then we have a look at this, we've got the overall sections. Again, you might do your filler flush rather than set back. It's all individual things there. And, that end panel would likely go to the floor. So rather than the one I used, I could have dragged out the end to floor option. And then you'll see that now, that's looking like a common sort of fridge section. So now with all of that in mind, right, I might just window that whole section, right click and go add to favorites. And I might call this my, fridge left-hand section or something like that, call it whatever you'd like, but you can then go ahead and utilize that in your favorite section. So, on the next job, if you didn't have this and you just wanted to go ahead and drag out your fridge section, one-click selection, drag it out, drop it on, and you're then flying. It's a much faster way of drawing, and I think a really severely underused feature of Mozaik as well. So just a note on the section on the favorites too, you can actually have different drop-down menus, like different favorite libraries, if you will. So you can go into the manage option there and you can go ahead and create different sections. So I might want to create one called kitchen items or, fridge sections, for example, and go ahead and have that as a library selection. So then, I've got this item here and I can edit the name of it there, or I can move it up and down. Or rather than that too, I could also just click the, add that to my favorites collection. But if I go into my fridge section here, I'd probably just want to select that item first, right click and add that to favorites now, and choose which one. So when you do it, when you've got your categories set there first, you choose the section first and then you give that a name, so that'll appear then in that section. So that way you can kind of manage what you want, and I might delete it out of that section, for example. So, I think you could certainly utilize that in so many different ways. Like I said, the vanities are another classic example. Wardrobes, closets, that sort of thing as well. All really good examples of how you could manage favorites and grouping items together. You see that, Mark, you said there's nothing in your favorites, and that's soon to change. 100% agree. I think, that'll certainly be one that you can take advantage of for sure. Rightio. So let's see. Has anyone got any questions or topics that they wanted to discuss today? What can we show you or go through that's going to be beneficial? I can see Jason's also suggested there entertainment units. That's another classic example of where you can utilize favorites for sure. That's usually a combination of different products as well. So definitely one that you could take advantage of for sure. So don't be shy in asking your questions. I'm sure everyone's kind of got various things that they would like to learn. So feel free to pop your questions in the chat as Eric sort of suggested there as well. If you're not sure where the chat option is, it should be there should be like a chat button down the bottom of your Zoom control, or maybe it's at the top of your Zoom meeting controls as well. You'll see kind of a mute option, and then you've got like kind of next to screen sharing, you've got a chat function, and you can click on that and type in that area there. So feel free to utilize that. So Mark, you've said I've been wondering wondering about best practice for updating libraries. New versions come out, custom parameters make library merging a challenge. Yeah, for sure. That's something that we're certainly aware of and looking into various ways to improve that. The only real challenge is when we add options to the other section of a library. So just to jump into that, if I go into libraries products and I've got the CADMate library selected, I'm going to go into parameters. Every parameter other than the other folder, so everything above the word other, is a standard Mozaik parameter. So they're all ones that exist in Mozaik, and everyone has the same options. So everything above that, you could easily save as a construction method, and when a new library comes out, load that in. The complexity comes with what we add to the other section. So we'll generally let you know when we've added something new. So for example, if we release a 12.2 library or a version 13 library, whatever it happens to be, then, we'll generally say, here's what's new, and we'll let you know if there's any other options that we've added into that library of the other parameters. Now, with that in mind, it's really just these ones that are going to be added to the next one. So sometimes, rather than going back through every other category and check in what you've got selected for those answers, what you could do is just press save as, and go ahead and save this as a construction method. So for example, I'm just going to call this CADMate example. And what you're going to see there is now that's going to save everything, including what's in the other folder, right? Now, let's say we've added a brand new one here, and I'm just going to call this example. And, this could be example again. And, it might do something. It might be like a number or something like that, right? And I'm just going to put 50 in there. If we've added that and that's not in your construction method that you've saved, it just means that you need to load your construction method up and add that one in. So just to show you what that would look like. So we've released a new library. It's called version 12.2. You've loaded it up. You go into your parameters, you press load, and then you go ahead and find your standard parameters. So you go ahead and find your CADMate example. And in this case, you can see that I've now lost the new example parameter that I've added. So taking that into consideration, then all you really need to do is just add the new one, so we can let you know what they are. And that way you can just go ahead and enter them back in the same way. And there's generally not too many that we would push out on a library update. We try and avoid it as much as possible for that reason. But Mozaik are looking into like an import-export option in the parameters as well. So that could really be a big advantage for sure. There are some kind of background ways that you can merge via like the DAT files in a text, but if you're not sure what you're doing there, it can get messy pretty quickly. So we tend to sort of, suggest if you sort of want some assistance in doing that in a faster way, book in a 30-minute meeting with us. We can take care of that for you and make it really easy. So, yeah. So speaking of library updates and things like that, we've been working on a fair few things on our side and hope to share those with you soon as well. With one of the things that you've seen we've pushed out a lot of lately would be the inserts, and there's plenty more of that coming. We've been working through the various suppliers, and we've sort of got the Westco Poolboy range out there now, and there was a huge range in that as well. So the different Antaro, Legrobox, and Marivo box options, and all the various sort of liters and size buckets. So that's all available to download from our help website. You can just go to the CADMate help.cadmate.com.au and go to the inserts category, and you'll see everything that we've shared there as well. As well as we've got the Nova hardware, the Pika pullouts range. So there's been a nice addition there for a few different pullout options. These are all inserts that can be dropped into your library really easily. That's all available right away too, so you can definitely jump on that. Then you've got the bins from Hafele, the Halo Euro Cargo bins as well. So we've added various options for those, the popular sort of 30, 45, and 60 options in width in centimeters. So you've got all those in there as well that you can. And the really nice addition of these, and the thing that we've put a lot of focus on adding these, is that in 12.1 we've got the ability to add the front bore in. So when you go to add a hole now in an insert, the big thing is that you're able to select and add that option to the face. So it's now drilling into the drawer fronts or door fronts or whatever's on there. So I think that's a really cool and useful thing that came out in 12.1, and certainly something that we're going to try and take advantage of by adding as many different inserts as we can. So if you have any sort of options, things that you'd like to see created in inserts, like pull out pantry items, popular things like that, just let us know what they are. That way we can add them to our list and share them out as we create them. Eric's shared an option there for you guys, a link for the insert so you can go straight to it. Mark, you've said, doesn't the usually add other to update? So usually special items such as CADmate to tweak. Mozaik will never kind of add anything to the other parameters for sure. It's only really like the CADmate library or any sort of special libraries you might download that might utilize that. So Mozaik always tries to keep the libraries as clean and minimal as possible, just to make that easier for upgrading from version to version. So like if you're going from a face frame V11 or face frame V10, whatever it is, to the face frame version 12 library, it should be a really clean change for you. So you should just be able to select your previous library, go into libraries products and just select that library. So let's assume that, for example, this was my version 10 copy. I'd go into parameters, I would save my construction method, so I've got the latest copy of it. You can give that the name there, so you can see it's called basic construction, but you can call that whatever you like. Save that as, and then go ahead and go into the new library in version 12, go to parameters and load that up, and then it will just load in all your sections. Mozaik won't really add any custom sort of things into this, so it's really clean and easy for you to pull through from previous libraries. Let's see if anyone else has any questions or topics that they would like to discuss. Happy to jump in and let you guys sort of take the lead on where you'd like this training session to go. But while I'm waiting, I might try and fill the time with going through a couple of the other things that I think commonly sort of unaware of. Don't know if you realize when you go into a part and you, let's say, add an operation to that part. For example, if I was to go into operations here and add like a closed toolpath, for example, I can match the overall perimeter of that. If I wanted to sort of have a toolpath that comes in a certain amount from the edge, like 100 mil all the way around, I could go minus 100 and then space that in by 100 really easily. And then I could go ahead and select a toolpath on that one. You don't actually have to just assign a tool. You could definitely assign a panel tool group. And if you have a panel tool group designed as an internal cutout, then you could just assign that option. And you don't even need to assign a depth to the toolpath then, because the panel tool group will take care of that depth. And you can see that's a nice cutout. There's a couple of things I wanted to point out with this. You can click on these points. So you could either, achieve a formula here by clicking on these options and typing in a formula, or you could just go to the anchor option and I could anchor that option there, that point, to the top left. I could click on this point and anchor that to the top right. So I'm keeping the distance away from this corner consistent. And I could go to the bottom point here and anchor that to the bottom right. Then I could go to this point here and anchor that to the bottom left. And so now, without typing any formulas at all, I've made that completely parametric, that if I change the size of my cabinet and the depth of my cabinet and go back into edit there and go back into the bottom, and edit that one and look at that part, edit operations, you'll see that I've kept the same 100 millimeters all the way around. So I've kept that really nice and consistent without having to type any formulas. So utilizing a few of those common features there of just being able to sort of go, I want a perimeter toolpath and I want to offset it in, and then using your anchor in to anchor those consistently to those points just gives you the ability to really lock and dial that in. Another common thing that people aren't aware of is that you can copy and paste these operations between products. So I could always go into this product and go copy. So I've highlighted the whole product. So I've just window selected that operation. I've gone clipboard copy. Let's get out of this product and let's put another product on the screen. So we'll go drag out another base cabinet and we'll go into this one and go edit parameters, and we'll go into the bottom and go to edit and then edit operations. And let's go ahead and press clipboard paste. We'll paste that in. Now, if you're going to copy and paste between, it's important that you use the formula control rather than the anchoring. So I wanted to sort of show you the difference of this. So it's pasted the exact same size option, and it starts with the first lower left corner to the middle of the product. That's what happens when you don't have any formula control over it. So your anchoring is only relative to the part that you started it on. So just to show you that difference, let's go cancel there and cancel again and cancel again. And I'm going to jump into this product, and rather than using my anchoring, so if I'm planning on copying and pasting this and using it elsewhere, it is worth the time to go through and put your formulas on. And you don't just need to type in static values as well. It doesn't take long at all to do one extra step and go to a parameter control here and give yourself a size allowance. So, I might want to have this called cutout inset or something like that. Again, make up whatever word you want, and you can give that a description like, distance cutout starts from left, from edges, maybe better wording. I'm going to say 100. So it doesn't take long to add that parameter. And then I could go into my bottom and go to edit and edit operations. And I could click on this and go in here now and say, rather than 100, I'm going to say cutout insert. The 700 is going to be the part width minus the cutout inset. And then working my way around, this is going to be the part length minus the cutout inset. And the Y value is going to be the part width minus the cutout inset. And then coming back this way, this will be obviously the same. Part length minus the cutout inset. And this one will just be cutout inset. And then coming back to our final point, they'll just both be referring to that cutout inset. Of course, you could have different controls, left, right, top, and bottom if you wanted to. But then you've got the ability very easily, if I open this up sort of side by side to show you this, let's go across with this product here, and maybe we'll go underneath and show you that in high detail mode. And then we'll bring this back across here and go to parameters, and let's change that value to 50 millimeters, and we'll see the size of the rail change. We'll go to 200 and we'll see that size of the cutout change again. So nice and easy, and it doesn't take much to build sort of custom things like that fairly easily. But now what I wanted to show you there was if I go into bottom and edit and then edit operations, if we window select that now and go clipboard copy and OK out of there and OK again and OK again, let's go into this product. Now, because I've used a parameter, I do need to add that same parameter to this product. And, I can give that a description and a size again. I'm just going to say 100. And when I go to my parts, I'm going to go to bottom and edit operations and then clipboard paste. Now I've got the same option, same control, everything's already parametric. And the cool thing there is it doesn't have to be the same part type, so I could go to the shelf and go to edit operations and clipboard paste. And I've got the same functionality, the same formulas, everything on the shelf. So now, looking at this, if I go again to my high detail mode and show you this from underneath, you can see the cutout running through the shelf and the bottom, as you can see from the top view as well. And then again, under parameters, I've got the ability to tweak that size of that cutout nice and easily. So all kind of little common things that I think fairly underutilized. various options and ways of copying and pasting between products. And last point I'll make on that is that it doesn't just have to be the clipboard copy and paste. You can utilize part templates for this same thing as well. So I think part templates is another big thing that I think is underutilized. So if I go into the bottom and I choose the option, I've got it. So I've added the operation on the operations tab, but on the shape tab, I can click save to library, and I could save this as my, bottom with cutout or something like that, right? And go to edit, go to OK and OK again, or you can choose which category you want that to be in. So the cool thing about that is then if you wanted to go to a different product and add that in, rather than using the clipboard copy and paste, right, I could go out and drag out a new product. Again, if I've linked that to a parameter, I still do need the parameter on there. So that's where an example where you might want to add that to your library as opposed to adding it on each product that you need it on. So, that's where utilizing the other folder of your parameters in the library can be advantageous for sure. But let's add the parameter on there, and we'll go to parts, and then we'll go to the bottom, and then we'll go to edit, and then edit shape. And all we're going to do here is go load from library, and then I'm going to go ahead and find that library item and go ahead and press OK. And there it is there. Still got the same formula control, still got the same, toolpath and everything selected, same set of tools. And, then we're good to go with that one. So that can be utilized in a lot of ways. I think even other parts that are useful for that, like, you could save in there like V-groove lines and things like that. So if I go into edit shape there and I've got the back of my cabinet here selected, I can go into load from library, and then I might want to come down and grab like my V-groove by quantity option and press OK. And, now I've added V-groove lines to the back of the cabinet, so pretty easy to do. And it's just utilizing a part template. Now, the cool thing to know about part templates as well is that it's merging the machining, which is really cool because it means that you're still getting the adjustable shelf holes that were there, but you're now adding in the machining from your part template. So you're just adding and stacking on top of what's already existing. So you can have quite a few different part templates and then build some pretty interesting products by applying them across the board. And, if they reference a parameter or link to a parameter, like in this one, it links to our V-groove by quantity option. If you go ahead and change that, if I go to say 14 spaces and open that back up, then I've got 14 V-groove lines. So, it's still utilizing the same sort of set of control and options across the board. So, and again, I can show that in a higher detail view rather than the low detail display. So I can see that actually displaying as a nice V-groove. If I bring that down, you'll sort of get the idea. So, hopefully that kind of shows you some practical examples of how you can utilize operations in combination with either copying and pasting them between parts or utilizing the part templates as well. Archie asked if there are some custom cabinets in your library, should those be differentiated and updated individually? Yes. So look, if you've added your own products, so like say you're using our library, right? For example, the CADmate V12 library, and we add a new one. Obviously, the new library that we distribute and you download won't have the custom products that you've added to it. So, there's a couple of options and the ways you can manage that. You could certainly go into the C drive of Mozaik and you could rename your library. You could have a copy of the library. So if I was just to open this up here, let me just go ahead and find a good example of this for you. Let's go into the Mozaik folder, and we'll go into product libraries, and then we'll go into, let's say the CADmate V12 library, right? If you want to make a copy of that, you could right-click, go copy, right-click, paste, and paste an exact copy of that library. And then you could rename that whatever you'd like. So, you might want to call this My Cabinets, right? Now, for that to appear in your library list, you just need to close and reopen Mozaik. So if I was to just close out of Mozaik here and save this job and then open it back up, what you're going to see now is that you've got My Cabinets as an available selection. So you could always start with any library and make a copy of it, and then go ahead and from there, utilize the library structure as just your own copy. So now I've got in my library here, my cabinets was an exact copy of the CADMate V12 library, and then I could add any custom products I wanted to that one, rather than having to always import your own products into each new library that's distributed. You could just have your own one with your custom products that you've managed. And then that way, clean that up and distribute that, use that how you will. But I think that's an easy way of sort of managing your own library for sure. Ali's asking, how do you add edge band assignments to the frameless rail as I now add it manually? So let's take a look at what a frameless rail is to start with. So we'll go into this product here and we'll go into the interior or the parameter section, and I'm going to go to select and I'm going to come down to frameless rails. So first thing for a frameless rail is that we need to give it a size. So at the moment, if it's 0, it's going to be off. So it's basically a vertical rail for a frameless cabinet. So I'm going to go ahead and press OK there and give that a size. I'm just going to make it 100 mils so it's nice and visible. And when we take a look at this product in 3D now, let's turn this around. And what you'll see there is that I've now got my frameless rail. Now you might want to turn off. I might just go into, let's just take the doors out for a second. And we'll just clear that out completely, make it nice and easy to see. So the frameless rail's there, and next to it we have the top stretcher, right, as a part. Now you might want to turn the top stretcher off. So if that's the case, then you would go to parameters and select the parameter for tops. And you've got, at the moment, the base cabinet top set to top stretcher. So I might want to set that to none for this particular product. And now I've only got my frameless rail. So the frameless rail, to get to your question about the banding, the first thing you want to note is what part type is it? So if we go to the parts list here, you'll see it's listed as a TR, which is a top rail. And then when we come down into the name here, the type of that is frameless rail. So from there, you can go to banding and you can add a banding option to it here for sure. But if we go and have a look in edge band assignments, so let's go down to libraries and edge banding assignments, and we take a look at the various options that are in this list here. So we scroll down and look at the various options. What we're looking to see is that part available in this list? So, if the part is available in this list, then you can control it globally. If it's not available in this list, then you can't control it globally. So what you can see there, we've got the top finished end, applied end, fixed shelf, adjustable shelf partitions, unfinished backs, finished backs, nailers, stretchers, and we keep going down. We've got all the drawer components, door components, trays, dividers, finished ends, unfinished ends, and finished skins and toe skins and sleepers. But unfortunately, the frameless rail is not considered to be one of those components. Now, it's actually sort of considered, I guess the way it's used sort of globally, that particular component, it is like the picture sort of describes. If I go back to this particular option, let's go back into the frameless rail category, and I'll just sort of show you that. It's commonly kind of made out of plywood in the States. So you'd probably see, that component being the same material as the side of the cabinet. I guess in Australia, that's a different story. Would probably make that out of melamine and therefore need to edge it. But I guess being a top rail, it's just usually considered that it's going to be made out of a timber component that doesn't need to be edged. But, I think you've raised a fairly valid point. So I think definitely one we can add to the list as a request to try and get that in there as something we can control via an edge banding assignment. But for now, what you'd need to do there would be to just go to your parts list, edit the banding manually here and select, whichever edge you want to assign, and then go ahead and save that into your library to save you having to do it next time around. But it would be a per product selection at this point in time. So Kevin said, I assemble cabinets with finished ends using dados and pocket screws. To get the dado breaks for the pocket screws, I need to use another fastener. Is Mozaik going to add dado breaks for pocket screws? The other thing is that pocket screws are limited to just 4. Well, pretty much all inserts, all joint templates are limited to 4. If we go into the joint templates, what you're referring to there is we go into any of these options, and I can just go ahead and choose one of these. If you select any edge, you've got 4 locations. That definitely is going to change. So that is on the list, and I think it's going to go to 8 or 12. There's going to be, it's going to be a really kind of rewrite in this area to add a lot more control. So I can check to see if the brake dado distance will be applied to pocket screws as well. I can certainly have that discussion in the next development meeting and find out if that's on the list as well. But this entire joint template area is flagged for an overhaul. And yeah, I definitely know increasing the amount of locations is definitely on that list. So, you'll be able to then a common kind of approach that Mozaik has with the UI is trying to keep as many consistencies as it can. So when a new part of the UI gets developed, we try and then utilize that everywhere throughout. So just to give you a bit of an idea, if we go into, let's say, hardware library, and then we dive into the locks, right? So a new operation UI was added for locks, and this operation UI, as we go in, allows you to sort of take a center point and then add various operations around it. So, you can go ahead and bore holes, cut grooves, do any of the regular things, add pockets, toolpaths, whatever you need. And then that all becomes part of that particular operation or, screw, fastener, whatever you want to call it. That's a really nice UI, and it gives you a lot of flexibility. And then you can just choose where you want to place it, right? That same UI in version 12.1 was added to the shelf pins. So now you'll see the ability in a shelf pin to go in and press edit on these options. And you got the same thing. You got the same UI where you can go, okay, what do I want to add to my shelf? And it's got sort of the shading of the shelf there to let you know what side of the line the shelf's going to be on. But overall, it's the same UI. It's the same sort of ability to go in and add those various operations that you might need to that particular product. So what we're most likely going to see in the fasteners would be the ability to do the same thing in a fastener template, where we can go into here and utilize that same UI, so come down and select one of these options. And rather than just, a generic set of controls here, would be the ability to sort of go, okay, now let's utilize that same UI and apply various controls to it. So I think the joint fasteners are going to get vastly, more powerful in, within the next sort of 6 to 12 months. So, I think stay tuned on that one. But good point about the pocket screws in terms of, the dado brakes, and I'll certainly follow that up and find out what we can about that one for you. But at least you've got the workaround now to do, apply the 2 fastener templates. That sort of gets the job done without too much trouble. Yeah, for sure. The dado brakes is a nice feature for sure. And yeah, I think there'll be some sort of improvements there, no doubt, as it's widely used, especially in the American market for sure. So it's interesting the way people sort of build cabinets around the world. Everyone sort of approaches it differently for sure, but I think there's some really nice things that we can take from different markets and the way people approach things for sure. But yeah, it's pretty cool to see what you guys do in the States. So we've got a few minutes left. If anyone else has got any questions they want to throw in here, us here in Canada, no dramas. Yep. Probably, the Canada market would be more similar to the American market than the rest of the world. You'd sort of see like Australia and New Zealand follows the European method more so. So, we're probably very similar to the UK, Europe, the whole that side of the world, I guess, whereas you've got Canada and America are probably more aligned in the way things are being built. The parts missing from a library, such as a backstretcher in the CabMate library, is there a hack to add it in? Well, backstretchers are part of a parameter. So if we go into, if I want to add them to, I've got these products here, and let's just go to 3D. So, at the moment, I don't have a backstretcher turned on. But what we can easily do on this job or in your library parameters. So if I wanted to modify this job, I'd go to job parameters. And then I'd come down to my, let's see, that would be under tops. And then we'd go down to the back stretcher and just change the size. So we can enter a size and you'll get back stretchers appearing. Now I've set this one, I've overridden this one to none. So you'll see that one there won't update, but you can certainly click on that product and do the same thing. I could go to parameter overrides and go into the tops category and then go down to the stretcher. It's on none at the moment, but I could go ahead and change that to stretchers along width. and then you'll see that that one now has a front and back stretcher. If you didn't want the front and you just wanted the back in that example, then you would go to the that same product and you would go to the front stretcher width and change that to 0. So that way you then disable the front stretcher and you still got the back stretcher. So a lot of control, but if you wanted to do that globally in the CADMate library, you just go into libraries, products, and select the CADMate library, go to parameters and select the tops category and go ahead and give that a standard back stretcher width. A cool thing you can do there is you can print these out, so if you're sort of coming from like a frameless library v12 and you've got all your parameters set there, you can go into parameters there and just press print, print them out. And then that way you've got a hard copy to reference to and go through and just check what the CADMate library is set to and what the differences are and modify that to suit what you've got. How are operations added to the front of cabinets? Example, the Euro cargo pullout. Yeah, sure. So let's just make some space here and we'll go ahead and drag out let's just drag out a standard one door cabinet, for example. And I'm going to leave it, 450 wide, that'll do. So let's open this product up and we'll go to the interior. I'm going to clear that out for starters and go to the face. And I'm going to change this rather than a door that's hinged on the right. I'm going to have it hinged on the bottom. The main reason for that is I want to get the handle appearing in the middle of the door there. And then I'm going to go to my adjust and delete the hinges. I usually do that as a starting point. So I don't have any hinges, but I've got a handle that's pull that's right in the middle at the top of my front door section, and there's nothing inside. So then from there, you've got your interior section. Now you could just add your bin. You go to inserts and add the bin straight into this. Or what you can do if you want to be able to move the bin vertically up and down, we recommend adding a split first, changing the split to a separator. That way you've got some control over how high that sits. So if I wanted it to sit up 50 millimeters or 100 millimeters or 2 or 3, 4 inches, whatever it is, you could add that value there. And then you've got now a section up here where you can drop your insert into. So, for example, the Euro cargo, if I was to grab the 450 version and drag and drop into this space, that will drop the product in. I've got my model and I've also got my front drilling. Now, to talk about how that front drilling happens, it's created in the insert library. So if we go into libraries and then down to inserts, and we change this to the Euro cargo, for example. So under operations, to add a new operation, so I'll just show you one. If we go to add, and we've got the ability to either do a borehole, a dado, or a line bore. I'm going to say just a borehole. And on the side, that's the main selection there. So what's new in 12.1 is the ability to change that to the face. And now you can see it's asking you for the S value, which is the distance from the inside of that product, so where the insert starts, in horizontally, and then the E value, the elevation, is coming up from the bottom of the insert, or in my case, the bottom of my separator, up to the hole. So, for example, if I was to say I wanted a hole that was 100 millimeters up and 100 millimeters in from the side, and I could reference either this to be on the right-hand side of the product or the left-hand side of the product, and let's just go with left. I could enter a depth. I'm going to say 10 millimeters. And just to make this hole really obvious, I'm going to make it a really big diameter of 50 millimeters and then press OK. Now I've added that to the ST450 Euro cargo. Now I've already added that option in there, right? So I'm going to go into my interior. I'm just going to delete that one out and then go ahead and press inserts again and find that same option and drag and drop that one back in. And now when we go to the 3D view, what you're going to see is there's the hole, 100 millimeters in, 100 millimeters up from the separator. And that's the main reason why I recommend doing the separator, is it just gives you that flexibility of moving this up and down. If you want to get the bin as high as you could, then you've got the ability to click into this section here and move that up as much as you need to sit that bin as high as you can get it. So it just gives you that little bit more control, and then your drilling is going to move with that. And of course, if you based all your drilling on what's provided by the various sort of hardware companies, then it makes it easier to to base it off the bottom minimum clearance, I guess I'd say. And of course, I could show you that in a high detail mode as well, just to give you a bit more clarity over where that hole is and what the depth of the hole is. But we've gone through these providers and added like the operations for where the they recommend, but also on the side for the the drilling for the runners, and then the top shelf there as well. So we're trying to make this as easy as we can for the various various ranges that are out there. All right, so that pretty much wraps it up, guys. Appreciate everyone's attendance today and questions. We'll do this again next month, so we'll send out a notice for the date and time, and we'll see if we can get some more people attending and asking questions. Hopefully, you guys get a lot out of it, and look forward to chatting to you again next month. If any of you guys stateside come into the AWF show that's coming up real soon, feel free to pop in and say good day. I'll be there. So come by the stand and say hello and have a bit of a chat. Introduce yourself. It'd be nice to meet you all. And we'll definitely be providing a link to this video as well. So feel free to keep an eye out for that. We'll probably email it through to you guys that have registered for the meeting. We'll most likely also share that on YouTube and Facebook as well. So stay tuned for that. Definitely hot in Vegas. I think it'll be about 40 degrees Celsius at the moment. So that'll be nice. But I appreciate everyone's attendance, and chat to you all next time.